And as for a broader trend, Vegas was more of a specific one, but as for a broader trend, we've heard this multiple times, but Gen Z is also not drinking anymore. They are not consuming alcohol in any form. They're not going out for cocktails, not going out for beers. They're not even drinking White Claws anymore. Like seltzer is the most Gen Z drink ever. Like sparkling water that's spiked with, I don't even know what's in it, like vodka or whatever. I think it's vodka. I don't really drink seltzer all that much, but they're just not drinking. And so like a personal example of this. So I have thrown a couple of parties at my house. I'm not a rager or anything, but like a housewarming party. And I threw one for my book release and whatever. It's wonderful. It's fine. And I've been gifted bottles of wine. I've gone out and gotten White Claws and seltzers and margarita mix, etc. And I've gotten like a big thing of vodka for like, this or whatever. But I have never had anyone go out of their way at my house, of all the people that I care enough to have over my house for a meal, for a party, for a gathering, whatever. I have never had anyone go out of their way to grab a single thing. Not a single drink. At times, I have been the only one drinking. And I end up throwing it all away. Like I remember after my book release party a couple weeks ago, I took all the White Claws, I just popped the cans and dumped them all in my sink and threw them all in my garbage. I'm not going to drink them. No one else drank them. So, like, what's the point of having them in there? And I end up just chucking all of this alcohol that people have, put together from that sense. And so, again, like, what is going on here? And it keeps happening over and over again. Like, I never have been invited out to a bar by a friend in recent memory. I just haven't. And many older generations are confused by this. Like my mom has been, at some of these parties that I think a couple of them that I've thrown, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, we should get these." And my mom is not a heavy drinker at all, but she's like, "Oh, let's get this and let's put this there and whatever." And I'm like, I kind of have been hesitant to kind of like, yeah, like throw that in there, mom, or whatever. And she but she's like, no, like we got to have this, whatever. My mom's a hospitable person. She's a nice woman, obviously. And, I'm just like, I wanted to tell her, I'm like, Mom, like, I don't think we'll need it. And she's like, well, just in case. And I'm like, okay, fine, whatever, we'll buy some. And my mom is just so confused. She's like, Sam, no one drank any of the White Claws or the beers or anything that we got. I'm like, yeah, like no one drank any of the beers. And they're asking like, how in the world is this possible? Because so much of their culture, from what they've told me, what they still do, and my parents are not heavy drinkers at all, but like they go out for alcohol and they do things. And they're like, oh, I'm going to go meet a buddy out for a beer or for a bar or whatever. I'm like, okay, fine, great, do that. Mom, going to go out and get some drinks to their girlfriends, whatever. Fine, great, I don't care. And so the reason behind this, the reason for that it's not only possible but preferable for Gen Z is the same reason as to why everything in this generation is. They just know more. Gen Z knows more about alcohol. They know more about beer, wine, hard liquor, etc. And also, they've seen the destruction that it's wreaked on their parents, their grandparents, etc. The amount of family friends and family, whose parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, who were functioning alcoholics for the best part of it, particularly old, like more like around that 50s age, like my parents' age, like that are functioning alcoholics that have just constantly consuming alcohol, drinking. And they're like, no, I don't have an issue. I don't have a problem, whatever. But like every weekend, it's like they're blasted out of their minds, like this beach house or whatever. I'm like, whoa. I look back at that. I'm like, holy smokes. Like that is a not good thing to have happen. And then there was this, I think the big red pill for a lot of people is that Andrew Huberman, who I'm neutral on. I think Huberman's kind of boring and he's kind of a science dork and I don't really enjoy him all that much, but no problem with him personally. But he had a very, a now infamous podcast on alcohol. And he went through, and Huberman's very detailed at what he does. And so he goes through basically everything that says like, alcohol is composed of this, and this is what it does to the brain. This is what it does to the body, the bloodstream, etc. And so he basically has said that there are zero, like literally zero, positive benefits from alcohol. Not even socially. A lot of people are like, and me, I was one of these people, like, oh, it's a social lubricant. Like I can't talk to attractive women without alcohol in my system. Like whatever. That's not true. It actually makes you less confident, makes you more anxious, more insecure. It messes your body up. And it's been over and over and over that this is kind of a thing that's happened from it. And I'm not totally absent from drinking, but like you have Rogan going away from it. You have a lot of people that have been really just, in this culture for a while that are going away from alcohol, like Joe Rogan. Like Joe Rogan gets drunk at his podcast with, what he does with Gillis and Mark Normand and, Ari Shaffir and all those guys, and he just doesn't do it anymore. And he said he feels great. And so I think this is a reflection more broadly of Gen Z being a very rational generation, unlike the millennials. This is another key difference between the millennials and Gen Z. They do not go based off their feelings. I have to get a drink because I need to impress this girl at a bar. I have to go out to get validated by my friends because if I don't, I'm a loser, whatever. Because they've seen what it did for that generation and the generations that came before them. And many people, including me, make this error with Gen Z and millennials. We end up kind of saying that they're the same thing. And we say that, oh, it's just young people. It's like, well, what kind of young people are we talking about? Like, millennials aren't that young anymore, by the way. They're not. They're in like their 30s and 40s by this point. And so they conflate the two. They conflate Gen Z and millennials. Like, oh, young people are lazy. Gen Z's not lazy. Millennials are. They are. And this is one of the things that is the difference, the biggest differentiator around it is that they do not need the validation. They don't need to feel a certain way about something to stop drinking, whatever. And this is really the biggest differences between those two generations is that millennials have this almost kind of like weird, like incessant drive to like be felt as something by people, which I don't understand. I do understand because that was me. But like, I look at that now, I'm like, oh, look, that's so sad in many, many ways it is. But, at the end of all of this, the bottom line that Gen Z has figured out, and I'm glad that they have, is there's no rational reason to drink, like at all, to be honest. It is all cope for something you want to hide. It's the same as any addiction, whether it's pills or porn or drugs or alcohol, like alcohol in this case, sex, whatever. It is all coping. It is all compensating for something that you want to hide. Your fitness, your lack of social, you're the big funny guy at the bar, your lack of social skills. Oh, like I need to be drunk in order to talk to guys, talk to girls, your relationships. Oh, I'm going to hang out with my buddies. The only place we can hang out is a bar. We can't, hang out without being shit-faced, blasted out of our mind, whatever. And alcohol does nothing for you but numb you to reality. It does nothing but numb you. It takes you away like any addictive substance does. Again, whether it's sex, pills, porn, whatever the thing is. It does nothing for you but numb you to what's going on around you, which is why Gen Z is rejecting it. Like I said a couple weeks ago, like my pastor, Ethan Marola, is my friend. He said in one of his sermons a couple weeks ago that Gen Z is a generation that loves truth. They love reality. They're not trying to escape it. They don't want to because they like living where they are. They're like, I've kind of seen enough of the construction of this matrix type of reality that we're living in. I don't want that anymore. And anything that gets in the way of that, that obscures that numbs that, is not favorable to them really at all. Which is why I think we're seeing this backlash of drinking and everything like that that's kind of coming into that. And that's a very, very, very important thing. And I think that that's the reason why Gen Z is leading the charge of this anti-alcohol movement. I think it's here to stay because I think we're kind of, again, self-regulating from this, which I think is a very positive thing because alcohol is, at the end of the day, it's way too destructive. And I think that it's good that we're going away from it.